It is really important that when we practice public speaking, we practice physically. Oftentimes, I'll watch as students write really, really strong speeches. They write it all out and they think about it and they memorize it. But then when they physically get up in front of the class, the lines go away. In theater, we call that going up. It's like the line goes up and it just goes away and out of our head. The problem is if we don't practice physically, when our body enters into the speech process, it kind of tends to take over. Good speakers who've been doing it for a long time, know how to train and control this thing called our body. But those that are beginning speakers oftentimes will be surprised when their hand starts to shake and their leg starts to shake and their voice starts to quiver a little bit. And they're surprised by that because they don't feel all that nervous when they're up in front, but then the physicality takes over. And the way you prepare for that is you practice physically. You stand on your feet, you practice in the kind of voice that you're going to need in the space that you're going to use, and you practice from beginning to end. When you only practice from paper or you practice sitting down, oftentimes people will start a speech and then they'll start over and then they never make it all the way to the end. So the ending tends to be more rushed. It tends to lack the same polish as the beginning. So for this particular speech, you are going to talk about yourself. It's a pretty easy topic, but we want to practice. I call this practice without pressure. You will be assigned to groups of 3. You want to make sure at least one of you has a cell phone which can record video. Before you move, you will need the following items. You're going to need your Pressureless sheet or whatever rubric we're using, a pen, and a computer in this case, so that the speaker can use his or her visual aids and practice with them. In this particular case, we're going to choose different characters: Piglet, Tigger, or Pooh. Who do you want to be when you get into your groups? One student is going to be the speaker, and we'll just rotate through this role. And then using the speaker's own phone, we're going to have a second student who will record. That way when the speaker goes home, he or she can look at the speech and tweak it to make it stronger. If you don't have somebody to watch you give your speech, this is a great technique for recording yourself because you can kind of see things that you can correct. The second speaker is going to score the second person in the group is going to score the speaker using the speaker's own rubric. Again, that rubric will go home with you so you can look at it and say, okay, I need to touch up this area. This does count as a score. Under SRG, you're graded for your construction of your speeches, and so we will be scoring this. Everybody needs to participate. The order will be Tigger gives a speech, Piglet grades a speech, Pooh records a speech. Then we'll switch. Tigger grades a speech, Piglet records a speech, and Pooh gives a speech, and so forth. What if I'm not ready to go? I kind of anticipate that. That's why we call it practice. What I want you to do is fake it till you make it. I want you to imagine your happy place. I want you to look at the questions on the back of the rubric, and I want you to try your best to speak for 2 minutes about them. If you don't have your visual aids all the way done, then you'd say, at this point, I want to use a visual aid that does this. And you just talk about it, and that'll give you a little bit more time to get it done. Now, here are a couple things I want you to watch for. The person who's recording, I want you to write down the first and last words that the speaker says. And I mean, when I say recording on the rubric. I want you to write down the first and last words the speaker says, because oftentimes these are a little glitchy. People will stand up and say, okay, okay. My name is, and this is my Pressureless. Okay, first of all, I should know who you are. I do want you to introduce yourself in your speech, but I don't want it to be typically the very first words out of your mouth because they'll all sound the same. So what you want to do is think about which of your slides is the most engaging, which one is going to be the most memorable, and bring us into that. We want to be sure that the visual aids can be seen from the back of the room. Oftentimes I have to talk to students about too much text on a page. The visuals, the pictures are too small, they're blurry. So less is more. You want your visuals to be a memorable connection to the idea that you're talking about. Okay, so just think about that. And so imagine you might get up and move away from the screen a couple steps, and if you can't see it, then I'm probably not going to be able to see it from the back. Last year I made a lot of comments about color choices. There are certain color choices that are difficult to see. So you want to make sure that you are thinking about your audience. Be sure there's not too much text to a slide. Bottom line, have fun. And before Monday and Tuesday, if you can, watch the Julian Treasures video on my YouTube channel. He gave a TED Talk on how to speak so people will remember what you say. Have a great time.